whilst he was head teacher in Oxfordshire. Ms. Sue Webb, as the executive consultant of VBE, supports schools by training, consulting, running courses and conferences, and auditing schools for the values-based education quality mark. She presents on national and international stages and has worked with schools in Sri Lanka, India, and Russia. Ms. Sue Webb.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello. I think there's lots of people still coming in, but we will start. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for being here, because it shows that you really care about values and about the children in your care and about education. Thank you to the organisers as well, because they care. They've put this event on because they care about children and about education and about the future. Thank you to the other speakers. I've learned so much. There's not many of them here, but I've learned so much from them. Some fantastic insights. So I'm going to take you through a journey, really, I suppose. My journey, which I'll tell you about. I'm going to tell you about how values-based education looks like in schools. I'm going to start off by showing you a couple of little film clips. I like using film a lot. Now, who in here teaches young children, primary schools? Primary school teachers? Thank you. Secondary school teachers? Thank you. Teachers of university students or further education? Thank you. Young people, thank you so much for being here. I just came and saw you, but thank you very much. I hope you're finding the event interesting. So, what does a values-based classroom look like? Well, this is what a values-based classroom for young children might look like first thing in the morning. Very young children can be values-based as they come into school, but of course the teacher who instigated that was thinking all about relationships, wasn't she or he? Responsibilities. So how about for older kids? How about for young people? How about this for a cool values-based introduction to the morning?
In this room, we're going to be here. This is like now. What do you mean? I would say if I put the lights down right here. Okay. Is this great to see you? Thank you. Thank you very much. You ready, Chef? I don't know if you're ready. You ready? All right, what you got?
So, who greets their class like that? Who thinks it would be a good idea to greet their class like that? I'd love to do that. So, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about my journey. I'm from the UK, just outside of London. I was a head teacher at this school in Buckinghamshire. And this school, when I arrived there in 2010, was an outstanding school under the Ofsted inspection system, which has been previously mentioned, was outstanding, but actually it really wasn't outstanding. It was in a bad place. The teaching wasn't very good, the learning wasn't very good, there were high expectations for children to succeed academically, unrealistically high expectations for the children to pass exams and go to certain schools, even if they weren't really capable, no matter what we did. So I had a lot of work to do. And we worked really, really hard for a couple of years and really raised the quality of teaching. And at that time, I didn't know about values-based education. And after 2 years, somebody visited the school and they said to me, "Wow, you're doing such great work here. Would you like to meet Dr. Neil Hawkes? Your school seems such a values-based school already, and you don't even know about values-based education." So I met Dr. Hawkes. This is his first book, From My Heart. And his work is from his heart, because it's all about values. And when I met him, I realized that this is what was missing from my school. Actually, the heart that we've been talking about and the soul, it was there, but it was very implicit. And what Dr. Hawkes told me was that we had to make it explicit. We had to make our work really clear, our work from the heart and from the soul. We had to make it very, very clear. Now, I absolutely love coming to India. I've been to Ahmedabad 2 or 3 times in the last year or so to work with schools. And I guess 2 of my heroes, as was said yesterday, 2 of my heroes are actually Martin Luther King and Gandhi. And here's another quote. We had a quote yesterday, but another quote which I think is very profound. Martin Luther King said that Mahatma Gandhi never had more than 100 persons absolutely committed to his philosophy. But with this small group of devoted followers, he galvanized the whole of India and through a magnificent feat of non-violence, challenged the might of the British Empire and won freedom for his people. Now, I put that there because I think that just one person can create a change in the world, a significant change in the world. And actually, that person could be you. You're here because you care. I'm here because I care. And I might change your way of thinking by something that I say or something that I show you. And that's why I've come all this way to do that. But now when you go back to your schools or your colleges or wherever you work, perhaps you'll be able to change something for the staff who you work with or the young people. I was so fortunate to visit Gandhi's ashram in Ahmedabad. Who's visited that place? Not many of you, or you should go. It's just, if you want a spiritual experience, it really is very, very profound. I have a big dream. Gandhi had a big dream. Martin Luther King had a big dream. You have big dreams. This is my big dream. My big dream is that I dream of a peaceful world where every single person is given the opportunity to be their very best self, their very best human self. I dream of a world where values-based living is just normal living. Why are we talking about values-based living? Why are we not just living with values? Many of us are, yes. But as we will see in a little while, perhaps the world could be a bit more values-based, and that could be normalized. And I dream of a world where every child has values-based, humanistic education And then they can make a positive difference to the world, a positive contribution to the world. Who shares my big dream? Who agrees? Who shares? Good. Thank you. I'm glad. So I was asked to speak today about the challenges in implementing quality values-based education and how to overcome. That was the title that I was asked to talk about. And I thought, wow, so many questions in there and so little time. So this is what I'm going to focus on. What is quality values-based education? What are the challenges? And how do we overcome? I'm not going to be able to do a magnificent job in less than 45 minutes, but I will be able to signpost you and direct you to places where you can follow up afterwards. So let's think about what is quality values-based education. And we've heard from lots of our speakers about why we need values-based education and what it is. Let's have a think about what it looks like in schools. A long time ago, maybe about 20 years ago, there was a very astute primary school teacher in Oxfordshire, in England, who really tuned into his students, really noticed how they were learning, not what they were learning, but how they were learning, how they were forming relationships with other children, whether they were happy and engaged in their learning, or whether they were disengaged, not really forming good relationships. And he continued to think about this and study it. And he was so passionate about it that he decided to take a headship of a school, as we heard this morning from Ron, and that person was Dr. Neil Hawkes. And Dr. Hawkes said, as he took his headship, what appears to be missing from many schools and society at large is a shared vocabulary based on shared positive human values, which can provide a sense of direction and vision about how to create a stable, moral society. He also said, I would like to argue that teaching about positive human values, for example, respect and honesty and compassion and care and humility and responsibility, improves the quality of education in schools. And such work creates values-based education. And there's Neil. So it's as simple as that. It's basic education, in the widest sense of the word, on values. Embedding it, inculcating it through everything in a school, the culture, the curriculum, and reaching the community. At values-based education, we do something very special. We give children a lifetime's gift. Uniquely, through supporting schools' focus on ethical and emotional intelligence and a strong culture of values, VBE gives students the very best chance of personal happiness and well-being and academic success. Our aim is to inspire education across the world. So everything that we've heard yesterday and today about why we need values-based education actually is happening. It is happening across the world in many schools. And I have the privilege of visiting many schools in the UK and now many schools overseas, as does Neil and as do many of our consultants, to help schools on this journey and then to recognize and celebrate their work. It's so joyful visiting a school that is a truly values-based school and seeing how they base everything on values, how happy the children are, how healthy the children are, but also the staff. And not just the teachers, all members of staff. Values-based, everybody is valued. Everybody is equal. When we do training, we train the whole staff. We don't just train the teachers. We value everybody equally, and we treat everybody equally. So there is a hierarchy of roles in a school, but there's not a hierarchy of relationships. I'm not sure that we've answered this question. I think once or twice we've answered this question so far, but maybe you have a different idea. We're here talking about values, but what is a value? What is a value? I haven't got time to ask each one of you. I'd love you to have a little discussion about this. But I think if I asked each of you to tell me what a value is, you'd probably all come up with a different idea, a different answer. And if we're to have a focus on values in schools, we really do need to come to a common definition within the school. It's fine to have a talk and have lots of different definitions, but everybody needs to know what a value is and be able to say maybe something like this. A value is a principle that guides our thinking and behaviour. We've heard one or two people saying that already in this conference. Now, even very young children, even my 4-year-olds in my school, when I said to them in assemblies, I would say to them, "Children, what's a value?" And all 400 of them would say to me, "Mrs. Webb, a value is a principle that guides our thinking and behaviour." And I would say, "Well done, excellent. Now what does that mean?" And I would say, "Tell me what you mean by that. Tell me about the value of honesty, for example." And they would be able to tell me that when they learn about the value of honesty, that people trust them more. That maybe they have more friends if they show the value of honesty. Maybe their parents appreciate them more at home. So when we explore a certain value, they are looking at how that value is lived in the world around them, and they're understanding it at a deep level. We're not just saying to a child, "Be honest, don't tell lies, be honest." We're showing them what honesty looks like and how we can encourage them to be honest and find scenarios and situations in schools to recognize honesty. So when we have something happen in the playground and we have to sort out a conflict, we explicitly say, "Thank you so much for being honest and telling the truth. It wasn't the right thing to do, and we need to talk about that, but thank you very much, because now you can say sorry to that person and make them feel better." So we're looking to make values very explicit in all areas of school. And when children realize that, when they think about it, their behavior starts to change. And they stop behaving because you have imposed an external framework of behavior, rewards, punishments, stickers and star charts and all those things, which are fine, but actually you want children to behave authentically because they know it's the right thing to do. And the more they learn about values and the more they live values, the more their behavior will change to an internal, much more ethical, much more wise framework. I saw that in my school. Okay. So here's some values words. Some of them you may agree with are values, and some you may think, "Oh, I'm not sure that's a value." But actually the important thing is that the school chooses its own values. We're not looking to impose a set of values on a school, because every school is different, and we've talked about contextual understanding. Every school is different, and you want every person in the school community to feel ownership of this. So in many schools in England, the head teacher has sat down, maybe they've sat down with their leadership team, and they've said, "Oh, we think these values should be the values of the school. Let's put them on the wall." There we go. Does that have any impact? None at all. Okay? But when you ask the community, what do you think should be our values? And you do an introduction to values. You help people explore their core values first, so they get really in touch with their inner selves. It's something we as teachers don't do very much of. We don't take the time to look inside and to really think, what are my core values? What is driving me? How do I bring my family up? What values are embedded within my home? So a lot of these words here will be resonating with you. And I'd like to invite you to think of just a moment of reflection inside and to actually think about, what do you consider to be your 3 personal core values? So just thinking to yourself, taking a moment, which is a very rare thing when you're a teacher, but just think, what are my 3 core values? Is it something you think about a lot? It may be. Or is it something you haven't thought about for a while? And when you actually do start to think about it, it makes you feel good. Yeah? It's your inner self. Okay. Can I answer questions at the end, sir? Okay. For you, sir, that's fine. Absolutely. Thank you very much for that contribution. Now, when you have your 3 values, when you absolutely know your 3 values, that's wonderful. And I would now invite you to think about, what do you consider to be the 3 values that you see most or that you feel most in society? So I'm not asking you to answer that question now, but just think about the values that you see in society around you. Some of you might be thinking, oh, they're the same values as my values. I would expect that most of you aren't. I would expect that a lot of you are thinking of actually what we call anti-values or negative values, perhaps. And there's a conflict there, isn't there? You know, our children are growing up in a world of conflict, actually. Sometimes violence, sometimes greed we see around us, envy, jealousy. There's all sorts of values that are out there that actually really are the opposite of our core values. Values-based education is all about relationships. I think everybody has said that so far. All about relationships. And at my school, once we started to focus explicitly on values, even though we were all very good people and I considered myself to be an authentic values-based leader before even finding values-based education, once we started to focus explicitly on those values, everything changed. These were our values. There are many of them. Neil has a model which is very adaptable, but the model that we chose to follow was we look at 1 value each month. And we don't repeat year on year, we repeat every 2 years. So we're looking for 22 values, 1 each month for 2 years. Okay? And you find that when you have that many values, you have this ethical vocabulary which we've heard about. That ethical vocabulary starts to grow and develop as you recognize how values are similar, how they're different, how they link together, how they're lived. And the whole community are using this language. So I'd like just to project you into the future for a moment and think about, what do values-based schools have in common? What do I see when I walk into a values-based school? When I go to do a quality mark audit and I walk into a values-based school, these are the features they'll have in common. There'll be a wide school community who've chosen the school's core values so everyone feels ownership of the culture. There'll be a happy, calm, and respectful environment and ethos right the way through the school. From the moment you walk through the school gate, you will be greeted in a genuine way by the site controller, by the bus driver perhaps, because everybody will be on the same page. And I've done some training in Ahmedabad back in February, and I worked with the bus drivers and I worked with the maids of the school and helped them to understand that they were crucial as part of this culture. How a child gets on a bus in the morning, how they start their day is really important. Everyone understands that everyone is a valued human being, and you'll find a genuinely supportive culture where everyone is valued. It's a strength of the school. Relationships are everything. And as I said, there's a hierarchy of roles, but there's not a hierarchy of relationships. And you'll find moments of reflection that take place in whole school assemblies, moments of circle time, class assemblies, and whenever it's appropriate. And we'll talk a little bit more about reflection later on. But they're generally stilling moments, quietening moments. Moments like that children don't have enough of. And moments like that actually do have an impact on the brain. And this ethical vocabulary builds, and it becomes embedded, and it gets used by people all the time. Decision making is based on ethical vocabulary. Now, no one's perfect, but all the staff, this is so crucial, staff try their very best to model the values. Modeling is so important. You're showing your children and your young people how to live those values. Okay, it's no good telling them to be polite and then shouting at them. But I have seen that happening. Okay, so you model the values that you have chosen, that you have bought into. Now, parents, we had a question about parents yesterday. Parents are very much encouraged to engage with the focus values. They're part of it. So communication between home and school is absolutely key. And thinking of creative ideas, sending newsletters about the value of the month, but also sending children home, maybe with stickers or wristbands, where they've been recognised for showing that value. So when they get home, the parent can say to them, "Oh, you've got a sticker for respect. What did you do? Or look at your wristband. Wow, you were kind to someone today." Something as simple as that, that creates that conversation in the home, rather than, "What did you do today?" And the child says, what does the child say? "Nothing." Yeah? "What did you do at school today?" "Nothing." Assessment of values is a feature, not measuring values, but thinking about the impact of introducing values to a school. Okay, so how do we assess the impact? We do need to assess the impact. We need to talk about what's happening in the school, what's getting better because of this values culture. So have some focus groups, have children leading focus groups and talking about their learning to adults, to governors, to other teachers, to parents. The children will be able to lead those discussions, and they are magnificent when they do so. So in all of these schools, we see values at the very heart of the school. Values are lived. They're not laminated, well, they might be, but they are lived as well. I'm whizzing through. I'm trying to keep you all awake as well by whizzing through. It's the after lunch session. Now, here's the website you might want to make a note of, and you will be getting this presentation with all the links. But values-based education, that's easy to remember, isn't it? .com is our website, and there's a whole wealth of material on there to help you with this journey. There's resources, there's guides, there's all sorts of things. Values-based-education.com. We did a little bit of research not so long ago. It's a little bit simple and crude, I suppose, but we asked schools who had embedded values-based education for more than a year what kind of impact they saw. And I'm not sure you can see this very well, but these bars are talking about emotional health, ethical vocabulary, positive behavior, positive relationships, positive learning climate, resilience, spiritual development, and academic attainment. And look at how many teachers responded with saying that there was a positive impact in their schools. So we don't really need to worry about academic attainment. It's there, it comes, and there's been a lot of talk about that this morning. Let's just take it for granted well, actually, we'll tell you in a moment. And this is the positive impact on staff. 94% of staff said that their emotional, mental, or spiritual well-being was positively impacted by values-based education in their schools. We see teachers staying at their schools because they're values-based schools. We see teachers going to work at schools because they're values-based schools. In England, teachers are leaving in droves. It's really hard to recruit teachers and it's really hard to keep teachers, but we see teachers staying at schools and moving to schools that have a really strong values culture. Okay. So what are the challenges? We've kind of been over this over the last couple of days, but I've got a couple of films to show you that talk about the challenges. But let's first of all I wanted you to think about families, because this is where our children are coming from. Our children are coming from families, aren't they? Okay, this is a very unusual picture because it's taken in England. It's taken in my back garden. There I am. It's sunshine in England. It's not raining. It's warm. But I'm with my family, okay? I'm with my family, which when I was born, many, many years ago, I was born into a normal family. I don't think you could get a much more normal family than the family I was born into. Both parents, white, British, working, professionals. I was brought up in a Church of England school, although that's not my religion now, but I was just so normal. Everyone in my family was white, very normal. Now look at my family now. This is my immediate family. Look how diverse my family are. This is normal. You will see this in England. This level of diversity, it's normal. Now, in this picture, you see a family with just about all of those people in that family are successful. You see academics in that picture. You see people who own their own businesses. You see people who have won awards, national awards. And you see love. You see connection. You see people having fun together, families having fun. You see a great deal of care. You see people who help each other, and you see friends. That's my family. Normal, successful, happy family. But that family has been through divorce, and not just one divorce. That family's experienced racism. There's children in that family who have experienced early bereavement, who have lost their mother at an early age. There's disabled people in that family. There's people with special needs. There's single parents. There's gay people. And there's people with mental health issues in that normal, successful family. And all of that means that there's people in that family who have experienced trauma. People who have experienced aggression towards them. And anxiety, people who experience anxiety, lack of confidence, don't have a sense of self or a strong sense of self, and lack of connection in that normal, successful family. And as we fade from my family, I'd like you to think about your family. So just take a moment to reflect on your own family, your immediate family. And now let me invite you to think about the children that you teach, or the young people, or the older young people, if you're in higher or further education. And what about their backgrounds? Actually, we just don't know, do we? We just don't know. I don't think you probably would have guessed lots of those things from my family picture. We just don't know what's going on for our children and our young people. We think we can guess in lots of cases, but we just don't know. We've had lots of stories this morning that have proved that. So I'm going to show you these couple of films. There is a health warning to both of these films, actually, because they are hard-hitting. They're hard-hitting and they can be a little bit shocking. You may be touched personally by some of the things that you see in these films, but actually it's a reflection of society in England and actually society in India as well. So we'll just have this one is all about the importance of role modeling and how children learn. Children learn by watching what adults do.
It's like rain again. Our clouds gather and fill the sky. Don't know how to talk to you.
From Australia. And actually, yeah, it's good, isn't it? And it's a good film to show parents as well, because it's quite extreme. But even if we tone it down a bit, we're still noticing that our children are living in environments where if they're being shouted at, if they are being hit, if they're seeing things that are detrimental to them, it has an impact on their behavior and how they grow up. And that's why it's so important, what we do in schools, that we role model the opposite of that. And this is a film I found when I did some training in India before. I don't know this organisation, but the film is a good film. It is a very shocking film, but I thought it was very relevant for you. And some of the things, lots of the things that are happening in this film are also happening in the UK. So, sorry if that's depressed you. Sorry if that's depressed you, but that is the reality, I think, of where our society could potentially could be going. These are all the challenges. We know this. I know this from the UK. All of these things, practically all of these things are on the increase and are causing us great concern and challenges, and possibly this. Possibly this most of all. Did you see the previous slide? Did you see that? Okay, so all of these. We see these, don't we, in our schools? All of these concerns. How are our children learning? What are they going through at home? We don't know. We know we need courageous, ethical leadership on a worldwide scale. That's a real challenge at the moment, isn't it? So, how do we overcome these huge challenges? Okay. And again, I'd just like you to go inside yourselves and to think, what's your deepest wish for your students, the students that you teach? What's your deepest wish for them? Why did you become teachers? Why are you working with young people or people who work with young people? So where does that wish come from? What does it tell you about yourself? So do some work on yourself. Find your heart and your soul. Through the busyness of teaching, through the complexity of teaching, through the accountability, through the tiredness, it's such a tough job. I've been a teacher for 33 years now. It's a really tough job. Head teacher for 5 of those. That's an even tougher job. It's massive. I link to this piece of research for you at the end, but a paper that was written on value education, an Indian perspective on the need for moral education in a time of rapid social change. This was written in 2009. What an insightful piece of work. Here's one paragraph from it. It's a brilliant piece of work. Every teacher should aspire to strengthen students' minds, fortify their hearts, vitalize their thoughts, and help them crystallize their principles. Teachers must help students clarify their values so that they can make wise choices when faced with confusing options. For me, that says it all. Our young people are faced with confusing options the whole time. We want them to make those wise, ethical decisions. That's why I became a teacher. That's why I'm so passionate about values. We need to help our children make the wisest decisions for their lives independently, because they might not have the support to make them otherwise. We know, don't we, happy children learn. These are my happy children in my school. They really do learn. We know that. The research tells us that. How do you introduce a values-based culture to your school? Some of you have done it. You do it like this. You choose a set of core values which are most important to you as a community. Each month, you introduce a new value through an assembly. You go for it. If you're a school leader, you lead it. You create classrooms through the school. It's a very joined-up approach. And communal areas which reflect the value of the month. And you have high-quality classroom displays and signage around the school. Then you focus explicitly on these transformational elements of values-based education, which I'm going to very quickly go through in a moment. And that's how you embed a values culture. I'm going to show you that. Engage parents as much as possible. Live the values. And reflect and discuss and celebrate what's happening in the school. What changes are you seeing? There will be really positive changes. So reflect on those, share them, celebrate them. Hugely positive energy will happen in the school. So Neil's work developed, and he identified these 7, what he calls 7 pillars or 7 core concepts of values-based education. And they spell this acronym, say, miracle, not because it's mystical or magical, but because it's something wondrous. So miracle happens in schools. And M is for modelling. I'm just going to go through each one very, very quickly. M is for modelling, and we've talked about the importance of modelling. And just look at the teacher in the first picture. Look at the eye contact she's making with that little boy. Modelling is all about making eye contact. It's about positive body language, positive tone of voice. When we train, we spend at least an hour on each of these core concepts. And we ask people to reflect on them in their environments. What does modelling look like in your school? How do your staff model the values? And that second picture, I don't know if you can see, but there's the teacher, the students are leading a radio station. They've been given that little opportunity of leadership, and there's a little boy there playing the drum, an Indian drum. And can you see that teacher's hand just on his back? Can you see that? But it was such a subtle way of supporting that student, but it's just what that student needed. That little, yeah, you're doing really well, you can do this. What a great teacher he is. Okay, so different role models, and as the adults become role models, the children will become role models, and that's what you're wanting. You're wanting to find role models within every class, throughout the whole school. So these are children at the Divine Child International School in Ahmedabad, and we have secondary school students at the bottom and primary school students at the top, and these are all the values ambassadors. So they've been identified, and some of them aren't academic students at all. Some of them don't shine really at anything academically, but they really shine at a value. So they're the values leaders, and that really boosts them as students, as human beings. They're so proud of themselves. The next pillar is something called the inner curriculum, which, as we know, as professionals, we know so much more about neuroscience now, and we know how we function from our emotional brain and our more logical brain, and children sometimes just function most of the time from their emotional brain. So how can we help them to self-regulate, to know their inner selves? Fantastic book, The Inner Curriculum by Neil and Jane Hawkes. Subtitled, How to Nourish Well-Being, Resilience and Self-Leadership. It's a guide for you, it's a guide for me, and it's a guide for our children to help them get in touch with their inner selves, but also for us as professionals to know how the brain works and what we can do to help our children in a values-based environment to really become more emotionally intelligent, to be able to talk about their feelings, recognize their feelings, regulate their feelings. Once we know about this, how do we do it? Well, we have moments of reflection in the classroom. Yes, we think about what we've learned, we think about people we've met, we think about what's happened, but actually reflection means sometimes being completely still and quiet. And it means mindfulness, really, mindful practice, where we give our brains a rest. And actually, we're not giving our brains a rest, we're building neural pathways between the limbic brain and the emotional brain. That's what we're doing. So in values-based schools, we will see children learning how to be mindful, how to breathe, how to calm themselves. And it's the children actually who demonstrate the worst, most challenging behavior who need this the most. And they find this the hardest. But once they get into it, they absolutely love it. And any of you who practice mindfulness or just take time to be still and quiet, know how good that helps you to feel. So we teach children to do this after break times when they come in off the playground and they are angry, aren't they? They've fallen out with their friends. They've had an argument. They come in and they sit and it's a matter of routine. They sit and they're quiet and they're still, and that anger and that conflict calms. And 5 minutes of that saves you so much time in the classroom and gets the children in a really good place for learning. The atmosphere of the school is so important. It's how the school looks, the displays on the walls, how the areas around the school feel. Things like lunchtimes. How do lunchtimes feel? Lunchtimes can be a nightmare. They can be a terrible time for some children. So how do you make lunchtimes sort of a safe, relaxing, sociable time? How do you do that? That takes you as a staff to work on that. But once you've found the answer, it's so much better. Curriculum. Underpin lessons with values. So lessons in the classroom, any lessons. Not only the value of the month, but all values. What do you need? This is a maths lesson, children. You're going to find this quite challenging. What values do we need to help us with this lesson? Yes, determination. Yes, positivity. What else do we need? Oh, resilience. Yes, if you find this really hard, you're going to need some resilience, aren't you? And children know what these words mean. They've seen them being lived. And the more you develop this ethical vocabulary, the more they'll understand how it helps them with their learning. This was a beautiful lesson I watched, which incorporated maths and music and the value of unity as those students worked all together to do this magnificent musical chant. These children learn in Taekwondo the value of determination and discipline there. Wow, it was incredible. And these little children having their roller skating lessons, this would never happen in the UK. Oh, health and safety would never let us do this in the UK. But in India, I think you do roller skating with 5-year-olds. What a great lesson in terms of resilience. Yeah, amazing. And celebrating national and international days as part of the curriculum. There's many of them. So leadership is the penultimate pillar. And here's a fantastic leader, a values-based visionary leader, not so far away from here, in India, in Ahmedabad. But the leadership of the school has to have that values-based vision. And once the leader of the school does, it will flow through the rest of the school. And it's really important that every member of staff is recognized as a leader. Okay. So if you are a school leader, how can you help every member of staff to be recognized as a leader of something they want to lead, not something that you've chucked at them to lead, but what can they lead at? And what's next? Of course, students. These 6-year-olds, when they were exploring the value of loyalty in their school, asked if they could start a loyalty shop. So every day, they set up this loyalty shop, and every day they went and they stocked up the little lockers and with stock, and asked people to come and be honest, be loyal, take something and pay for something. And at the end of the month, I was actually there at the end of the month, and they added up all the money, and they compared it with the stock that had disappeared. And it matched exactly. For the whole month, the children had been 100% honest or loyal. And what kind of leadership opportunities are we giving our youngest children? He could be a future leader, couldn't he? I wonder what he's going to be a leader of. So see every child as a leader. Find something they all shine at. And as you do all of these things, this wonderful ethical vocabulary develops and grows. This was from a display in my classroom, in one of my classrooms when I was a head teacher. I walked into a classroom when we were looking at the value of compassion. And this was a classroom where 7- and 8-year-olds were being taught. And the teacher said, "You've just got to look at this work on the wall. If the world was full of compassion and love, then no one would each other. If compassion was all around, when you smile, the whole world will smile with you. That's a 7-year-old who's written that. A 7-year-old also wrote this. Compassion is sadness becoming smaller and smaller until it has disappeared. It's your heart rescuing another heart. And from an 8-year-old, compassion to me is giving support and making broken hearts less and less until the hurt has vanished. It's rescuing feelings and turning them round the right way. Compassion is following your heart's instincts. What an incredibly deep level of understanding for 7 and 8-year-olds. And that's what gives me hope for the world, because I saw this in my own school and I see this in many schools now, all over the world. A rapidly changing world where we need a focus on ethics, where we need to be encouraging and growing values-driven leaders, courageous leaders, authentic leaders, fair leaders. If any of you follow football, I don't know if you will remember this, when this was the shock of the school, when a footballer bit another footballer. Two very popular teams, Chelsea and Liverpool in England, and one of these footballers bit another one. And we had a nomination system going on where we could nominate somebody for showing values. And this little boy came into school with a nomination from his mum, a little letter. And she said, "Mrs. Webb, I really think my son deserves the values mug." We had a values mug. And I said, "Okay, so show me the letter." So here he is. He did get the values mug. And his letter said, "Dear Mrs. Webb, I'm sending this letter to you to ask if Luis Suarez can come to a values assembly. He might have a lot of money, but he might have missed some values, like equality, self-control, kindness, respect, and compassion." He's 7 years old, and he understands what's going on. So, just to finish off, back to this normal, wonderful family who actually do underpin everything, I guess, with values, these values. And I think that's why everybody in this family has a really deep sense of belonging. And that's what we need to give our children. They may not have families like this. They may not have that sense of belonging. They may feel isolated and sad and hopeless. And we've heard so many stories of students like that and what a difference teachers can make, schools can make to their lives. So just think about your families and their families and what you can give to those children in your care. The website's there. There is a tab that says International, and if you go to the tab that says International, you will find lots of help. You'll find a guidebook that you can download. If you want anything at all and you can't find it, please email me. I'll show you my email address in a moment. We've done a lot of work with the Divine Child International School, and I just want to leave you with what they've said about implementing values-based education in their school. We at Divine Child International School have implemented values-based education as part of our daily curriculum. It's embedded through all our practices and the environment, and it is interwoven through every element of school life. School assemblies have become a powerful vehicle for teaching values, raising self-esteem, and developing enthusiasm. The school has witnessed a decrease in the conflict among students. There's a demonstration of greater empathy, honesty, and integrity. Students have become more tolerant and cooperative in their interactions, assume responsibility for their own learning, and work together cooperatively along with the recognition of values in others as well as in the self. Democratic classrooms are established, student-teacher relationships have become more trusting, and teachers have become more conscious of scaffolding students to manage their own behaviour or to resolve conflict with others. We've built our school community on values and have been rewarded with a very happy school atmosphere, well-behaved children, young minds capable of decision making, a purposeful work ethic, higher quality academic performance, and in our hearts, the promise of a better future. We believe when an entire school focuses on values, the impact is greater and more positive. And that's the principal saying that. Very last thing, I thought I'd leave you with Dr. Neil Hawkes. 2 minutes. So this is the very last.
The future. The future is in the hands of students.
Can we go back to the PowerPoint, please? Sorry, thank you. Okay, so I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. Young people, older people, thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you for caring so much. We're here to support you. If there's anything that you need or that you think I can help you with, then please email me or have a look on the website. Good luck with all your work. In true values-based fashion, I don't want to do a question and answer session. I think it's much more valuable for you to take a few moments to reflect on your context, values-based education in your context, what you feel is your next step, and maybe talk to the person next to you, have a little think about what you've learned, any next steps for you. I'm really happy to answer questions via email, but I think it would take time that is more well spent with you reflecting now. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Webb, for coming down and having this wonderful talk with all of us. We would like to offer a token of our gratitude and appreciation. May I please invite Dr. Pragnya, Director for Sri Sathya Sai Center for Human Excellence Girls Wing, to offer a token of our gratitude. Our next speaker is from the United Kingdom as well. Dr. James Biddulph, Head Teacher, University of Cambridge Primary School, United Kingdom. Dr. James is a passionate teacher who transformed failing schools in UK through his sheer fervour for the craft of teaching. He has been accorded the status of Advanced Skills Teachers for Creativity and awarded Outstanding New Teacher of the Year for London. He holds the Fellowship of the Chartered College of Teaching, FCCT, and the Royal Society of Arts, FRSA. Inspired by a creative approach to teaching, he has extensively researched on creative learning in ethnic minority immigrant children's homes and secured a PhD. Dr. James Biddulph is indeed an exemplar in the field of education, marching along the tracks of his school zone in constant communion with the heartbeats of his students. Dr. James.
Hello? Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a fond traveller to India, and this is I keep coming back. So for some reason, India calls me back. So this was an unexpected invite to come and speak with you today. So I'm very grateful for the organisers who invited me. So I think everything has been said, so there's not much for me to add to that. But what I'm going to humbly do today is really share the story of one school in one part of England, in one city, and on the edge of the city. So what's important for us in my school and also for the university is that we are just talking about principles that you could apply to any school context. And so I'm just going to share some of the thinking with you. So you'll... I need the slides up. So this is the famous University of Cambridge Primary School. By Vedic standards, it's quite young. We're 809 years old. I think the Vedic scriptures and other work are 6,000 years old. So we're quite young in the history of thinking about education and learning. But in 2010, the university was invited to make an application to open up a government school. And the idea that the university, with all its knowledge and great ideas, would be able to support new thinking about what education could be. So the university obviously has the great minds. There's Isaac Newton and his theories, Srinivasa Ramanujan, the famous mathematician. Pooh Bed wasn't at the university, but A.A. Milne did go to the university. The man who invented computing, an actress, and also a famous composer. So the question was, all these, the greatness of the university, what could it possibly understand about running a primary school for 4 to 11-year-olds? And as Sue was talking, if you look at the picture behind those children, and some of our children, is King Henry VIII. Now, King Henry VIII was a courageous leader, by all accounts, but his values maybe weren't the ones that we might want to foster. He killed 2 of his wives by chopping their heads off. But importantly, how do we have courage as leaders to really make a difference to the children in our care? And so we started with the notion of building from the university's history, but also these big concepts, and inspired to have some courage to do something different with our children. Now, Cambridge thinks in centuries. Governments think in the next election, but universities and Cambridge definitely does think in centuries. And it's a long, slow-moving beast. And because of that, the ideas take some time to embed, so values take some time to show impact. But when we were given this opportunity, we had a blank piece of paper and asked this question. If I asked Mr. Modi to give all the money in the world to you, what would be your ideal and perfect school? So with the people next to you, I encourage you just for a minute, what would be the list that you give to Mr. Modi about the perfect school? You've got all the money in the world. You've got 1 minute to design your perfect school with the people next to you. This is your chance to either stand up and not be stuck on the chairs and have a little chat with somebody. What's the perfect school? I'm going to ask the men first because they're chatting so much, and I'll speak to the ladies second. So just what is the perfect school? We already have some ideas. Yes, just shout out the ideas. Togetherness. Thank you. The human values are inculcated, yeah. Ladies over here. The students at the back, what's your perfect school? We're asking you. People who smile, that's nice, yeah. A place to learn and be happy. Pardon? A school in the forest, yes, especially on a day like this, we can sleep under the trees. I'll try and be quick so we can find a tree. Anything? No examinations, I think this is one over here. Limited examinations, one more over here. Pardon? The children should be the directors of the school. Okay, one last one. Open playgrounds, creativity, all the ideas are coming now. See, when we have an opportunity to think courageously about what's possible, we can start visioning and dreaming about how we can make it a reality. So we started with some core, well maybe we can talk, I'll move on, others will be here. We won't find that tree to sleep under. Some of the core education principles that we worked with were rooted in academic research. So we wanted a democratic notion of education, which every voice is counted. We wanted a balance of rigor and freedom. So teachers we have knowledge and we know things, so it's important that we teach children, but also balance that with children being able to play and think of their own ideas. So encouraging curiosity, a forest school. The gentleman over there wanted a forest, we found the forest. And importantly, that teachers have good professional learning. So the school was designed with a circular idea. It's a very big school by English standards, but we wanted to have small schools within the big school so that no child gets lost. So like Mrs. Robertson, we could still build a relationship between the child and the adult. At the bottom there, on the right, there's a forest growing. At the moment, it's more like a little forest, so you can't climb the trees, but it's growing to become a forest. And then within the classrooms, in each cluster, there are open spaces so that there are no doors on the classroom, so children can go in and out and we can build up trusting relationships between teacher and the adults. And there's direct access to outside, so every classroom, children can go outside and learn. I like this picture because it's incomplete. And in many ways, running a school and being an educator is a journey of incompleteness. Because every new student that comes to you will give you something new to learn and make you realize that maybe you didn't know everything and you could learn something new. But a school is not a building. We're very fortunate to have a lovely building. A school is not a building. A school is other people within the building. This is my team. And it is a team. We see that the administrators are educators, the teaching assistants are educators, and the teachers are educators, and the parents are educators. This team here work very hard to make sure that the values are lived out every day. And that's the priority for us. And we've spoken a lot about, can you get good academic standards and values? And often in education, people talk about opposites. You can either have creativity or you have good results. You have values or you have good results. This one or that one. But why, if we're the educators leading our classrooms, why can't we have both? In England, there's a centre opened up called the Jubilee Centre for Character Education. And this is an important quote, that an important ethical development is the recovery of ancient wisdom. I've got a quote here from the Rig Veda that reminded me of the Rig Veda. It says, Ekam Sad Vipra Bahuda, which is deeply inspired people speaking about the many forms of the same one reality. So how do we come together as educators across the globe and find the solutions? Because the answers are in the room, not necessarily the people standing up on the dais. So we need good character to create a just, compassionate, and productive society. So I've spoken about my team. So a school is not a building, it's the adults within it. But this is Sid. Now, it's not his real name. Sid said I could take a picture of him, and he said I could talk about his story with you. I asked his mum as well, and she said that's fine. So this is Sid in my office. Now, Sid hates school. He doesn't like learning. He doesn't like interacting with people. Or rather, he didn't like any of those things. When he came to us, he spent the first 3 months walking up and down the classroom, anxious about being there, anxious about making friends, anxious about what the teacher might do or say. So we said to the teachers, forget English and maths, just show him that you like him and you love him being in your classroom. So he walked up and down for 3 months or so. And then he started realizing that he likes being there. We witnessed that his anxiety, we saw him, and we kept saying how much we liked him being there. Then he started making friends. So this is Sid and his friends in my office. This is when he joined us. This is the kind of academic level. He was at the age of 7 at this point. Very difficult to commit to paper. And then a few months later, he was writing extended pieces of writing. And this was not only writing lots of sentences, he was writing about something important. Their topic was about the rainforest, and he was saying that, the topic was about fashion, and he was worried that the use of cotton was damaging the world. So he says people are dead because cotton is killing, and we need help against the cotton. So he was trying to articulate a compassionate sense of action to make a difference in his world. And then one day I asked in assembly, I said, so what's it mean to learn in our school? And he said, well, you see, learning is like being on a bus. It's like a brilliant bus, and the bus is going to brilliant land. Sometimes people get off the bus and others come on, but that's okay in life, isn't it? So we are on this kind of bus, and off we go, and there will be bumps on the road, and that is when the learning is interesting. Otherwise, the journey would be so boring. But sometimes it's hard, and we have adults. They are like the people who help us. And Dr. Bidoff is a driver of the bus, and so our school is full of friends and kind things, all going to brilliant land. So life is like the school, and our school is like the bus. And so it's making friends, all going to brilliant land. So he's really kind of the notion of being on a bus together. You know, us as educators are on a big double-decker bus, trying to do something to improve the quality of learning for Sid and his friends. So at the University of Cambridge Primary School, we have 3 ambitions, 3 vision statements, really. The first one is ambitious, or to be ambitious, and that is not being competitive. We say that sport is competitive, but learning is not. Learning is collaborative, and that's a distinction. We also want to be innovative, so we want to keep asking the questions why. Why do we have to do those tests? Why? Keep asking why. And also to be inclusive, to make sure that everyone feels welcome and included, and also valued. Now, Sue said there'll be lots of schools in the UK that have posters of lots of values on the front of their entrances. But when you ask the children, they won't know what they mean. And if you see adults interacting, you don't always see the adults changing the culture of the school. Now, there's a book recently written by a man called Paul Dix, and he says 2 things. If you change the adult, you change the child. So when we've had questions about how do we make it happen in schools, the starting point has to be ourselves. We have to change ourselves and how we respond to children in the classroom. Now, children never do what you expect them to do. It's meant to be chaotic, and that's the joy of being in school. But if you don't change the adult, the children will never change. So our key question that we kept asking, is what kind of humans do we want our learners to become? So rather than saying, are they leaving us when they get to the exam, we said, when they're 40, in 2050, when they're 40 years old, how will those children be as human beings? So do you want to just throw out some words? Imagine your children in 40 years' time. I'll be retired, they'll be looking after me. In 40 years' time, how will those humans be? caring, responsible, respectful, intuitive, empathetic. What was that, sorry? Compassionate. We kept asking questions like this. How do we want our learners to be? And then we will work backwards. So when they're 40, we'll keep working backwards until what they are now in the classroom of a 4-year-old. This is some of the lists that we asked our families and we asked children and other people in our community. We wanted people who are happy, who are lifelong learners, who are thoughtful, big questioners, who think of other people, who can connect with others. And this started our thinking of the idea of the values in our school. And we came to decide on 5 values of empathy, respect, trust, courage, and gratitude. And our vision became this one. The University of Cambridge Primary School is committed to improving education for all children everywhere. So we saw that we were part of the work you do in India, and you are part of the work that we do here, and it's through discussion, as the Rig Veda says, ekam sad vipra, well done, through understanding the one reality, we can build better classrooms and better experiences for children. And we have 3 aspects. We want flourishing children, we want inspiring educators, and we want engaging communities, and they're the driving force of the school now. This is some of the research that we looked at as we started developing our ideas. So here it is. This is the model that we created. At the heart of everything we're doing is nurturing compassionate citizens. And we described compassionate citizens as people who are knowledgeable, so they know things, who are articulate, who are creative, who are autonomous and collaborative and intercultural. They can understand diversities. Now, compassionate, we understood as this. Imagine somebody's walking and they fall in a hole. If you're sympathetic, you might stand over the hole and look over and say, oh, what a shame, you're in the hole. I feel something for you. If you're empathic, you'll get a ladder and you'll go and sit with them in the hole and say, look, this is hard being in the hole, isn't it? I feel it's quite dark in the hole. Nothing really changes because you're both in the hole. If you can find compassion, you can put the ladder down, get into the hole and feel with that person and then help them get out of the hole. And so we wanted not just empathy, but compassionate citizens who do something proactive in their world. So how honestly can we do that? Because of the government expects so many different things from us. Well, from my own PhD research, looking at children's homes, we said that the space is important. So we wanted to create an enabling space. And that enabling space is a relationship between 2 things. The values, which we call the ethos, the values of the school, and also the relationships within that school. So if, as the head teacher, I didn't show respect to my colleagues, they wouldn't show respect to the children. So everyone had to change the way they were behaving in the school. So the space is important, the culture is important to the school. We wanted to create a space of shared values, a way of working. And it was most powerful when relationships are fostered to promote the values. So our relationships were important. We looked at different types of theory, but at the bottom, lifelong learning, joy and fun. We said that for primary school, joy and fun has to be there somewhere because they're young children. And then within the enabling space, we wanted values-led curriculum. So empathy is about listening carefully to others, learning together for the benefit of all. Respect was about treating everyone with dignity. Trust was about building relationships with a shared vision. Courage was about developing resilience, determination, releasing the imagination, the possibility thinking. And gratitude was acknowledge one another with good manners, with thoughtfulness and consideration for each member of the community. So everyone, from the head teacher, the student, the cleaners, everyone, the kitchen staff, play something in our school. And so the values are within the whole curriculum. Then we wanted to, as Miriam said, to have stories to help children understand the values. So we carefully chose our storybooks, our texts, so that you could talk about the values. So what did that character do there and why? And you could actually get children talking. And then the third one is that, knowing the academic standards had a vital place to play in this, that when you're learning in maths, it might be different from when you're learning in history or when you're learning as an artist, and that we should acknowledge those differences. Now that was a bit clunky still, didn't quite fit together, so we wanted some golden threads. And the golden threads came out from the academic literature. We wanted children who develop good learning aptitude, so people who say, I can do it, not I can't do it. So the habits of mind were important. Again, looking at the Rig Veda, the importance of oracy and dialogue, being able to talk with one another and share ideas respectfully was important, because it deepened thinking, deepened knowledge. And then humans naturally are playful. And yet in school, we stop them being playful as they grow. You can play when you're 4 years old and you stop playing. But then colleagues at the University of Cambridge are saying that their students aren't playing with ideas anymore. They just come waiting to be told what to do. So how do we develop playfulness? So we've got habits of mind, oracy and dialogue, being able to speak and share ideas and deepen thinking, and playful inquiry. They were the golden threads. So that was our vision. We wanted compassionate citizens. Around that was values-led curriculum, text-rich and domain-specific. And then there's habits of mind, playful inquiry, and oracy and dialogue as a golden thread. And importantly, how we work together would make it alive or not. So what does that look like? Well, each day the children come to school, and the first thing we do, we sing together. We sing in a circle, and it's a great way to start the day. We sing different kinds of melodies. This one is a South African Zulu song. I won't sing it now, unless you want to join me. But it means we'll break down the walls and we'll go and get them. So instead of having that kind of slightly aggressive message, we were saying we'll break down the walls in our mind to say we can't do it, and we'll get through the learning today. And then after the singing, we have a meditation circle. So children, either outside or inside, do a guided meditation, a lying down meditation, a walking meditation. And that really sets them up for the day, and then the school day develops. And at lunchtime, as Sue said, lunchtime we have a family dining service. The food is brought together, they all eat together, they all tidy up together. Now, in India, this is quite common, I think. People help and tidy together. In England, it's not common at all. So children don't normally have the attitude that adults should be respected in the same way that culturally here is different. So we teach the children that they are responsible for their space and they have to look after each other. We have things like this. So if you're in your own, you have to own your own learning. So you have to think about it. You have to have a go. You have to use the equipment. You can find out by looking at a book. You have to make some mistakes. You can ask a friend. And only right at the end do you go to the teacher. And the idea for that is that in a classroom, there's many students, but there's also many teachers. The students can be the teachers as well. We do some explicit work with oracy and dialogue about physical, linguistic, cognitive, and social emotional language and oracy. So, for example, how do you conduct yourself in an interview? Do you walk into an interview and look down and don't shake anyone's hand? Or do you stand tall, look somebody in the eye, shake hands? Those kind of oracy and dialogue skills. We do philosophy with children. So philosophy for children is a well-known system. But there's one comment. They were looking at this picture of it looks like George and the dragon and the horse. They kept looking at the horse. And one child said, I think the horse is refusing to do it. It looks like it doesn't really want to do it because maybe the horse knows that the dragon is a living creature and so that it needs to respect like people. So through images, children are starting to think about the values. We have playful spaces in our corridors we call learning streets. They're playful spaces. So in this one, the Great Fire of London happened in this picture here. So the children were going to play with what happened when the fire happened and how did people feel when the fire started, so to build up some experience. And then there's free play. Play is important, not only guided play with adults, but also children to play freely. And through that, they build social relations and a sense of friendship, and also manage the difficulties of being in a society. We have breaks. I wish we could have a break now and let you run around because it's very hot and we need to get up a bit. But we have a daily mile, so children run or walk a daily mile each day. And then our behavior management system is based on those values. So the rules, we call them the golden agreements, but the rules are be kind, helpful and gentle, be respectful, use good manners, listen respectfully, be honest and responsible, be safe, and be courageous. And the last one's important because if you want to be a brilliant learner, you have to realize that you don't know something and be courageous to do it. So some of the questions that keep coming up, how do we have to be with the children in our care? Not how do children have to change, but how do we have to be as the educators? It starts with us. You change the adult, you change the child. If respect is important, what do we expect a 4-year-old to be like, a 10-year-old or an 18-year-old? It can't be the same, because 4-year-olds are meant to make mistakes, and 4-year-olds are meant to be not respectful because they want what they want when they want it. And what do we have to do differently to nurture relationships, to develop compassionate citizens? So schools are bombarded by governments to improve and get the results up. How can we subvert those ideas and have high standards, but also inculcate values within the schools? So here is the middle of the school, and in the canopy, even within the building, within the canopy, there are 66 images of the sky from around the world. And so children can see that we're all under the same sky, but each sky is different. So there's a sense of diversity within inclusion. And there are spaces for children to reflect and be together. You've cut all the words. Shall I just speak them on top? Shall I act while the music's going on? When to release my imagination? 3, 2, 1. So I'm saying that the university is committed to ambitious values of empathy, respect, trust and gratitude. I look very young there. We reach for the stars, she says. We explore nature together. We share ideas. Our teachers challenge us, and we challenge ourselves too. And then this is a kind of saying we're committed to building up relationships with our community and respectful playfulness. A school of joy. And this teacher's saying that he feels very trusted to share ideas. And we want to be surprised by children. We want children to give us the opportunity to surprise us. And because our teachers are excited about learning, so are we, is what they say. So the teachers are very excited about their own learning, and because of that, children feel that. They feel that there's a sense of learning for everyone in the school community. I looked much younger in that film, I think. That was a shock to me. Anyway, that is really a humble sharing of one school's vision and at the edge of Cambridge. It is a government school. It's funded by the government, so we don't have any extra funding. We do have a lovely building, but that doesn't really matter. What really matters is what goes on in terms of the relationships within the school, rooted in values, and those 5 values seem to be making sure that we are above national expectation in all levels, and children's progress is brilliant over time. So, if you Twitter, there's my Twitter feed. But thank you very much for inviting me, and I hope that was of some interest.
Does anybody have any questions?
Shall I go down there? Should we go down there? Because it's easier to talk. Is there another mic? Or shall I be the mic man as well? I'll run. Oh, we have a mic.
How do you encourage meditation in a toddler or a 3-year-old?
So meditation for a 3-year-old lasts probably 10 seconds because they're 3 and they're jiggling. But just, for example, asking children to lie down with their hands on their stomachs just to feel where the breathing goes for 10, 15 seconds is enough. If you do it too long, then their view would be it's a very boring thing to do, so they wouldn't be involved or interested.
Just one more question. How do you encourage the same practice in kids who are autistic or who have attention deficit?
So the first principle is that we want to be surprised by children. So we never say they can't be involved. But often children with autism are in the same space. So they're feeling the quietness of the space, but they may choose to be somewhere else in the classroom. But what we found is increasingly they come closer to the circle because children want to have a sense of belonging and feel welcomed and valued. So we don't ever force, but we try and create a space that enables children to want to move closer. But importantly, they're not outside the classroom. They're within the classroom as well.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What are the website school values and how to manage and provide those values to the website schools? What are the website school values? How to manage and provide those values to that website schools?
What are website schools?
See, one of the slides you have explained website school values.
So those, that was just a heading. If you Google different schools, they often have on their website, these are our values, and there's a nice poster. But when you go and visit the schools, you can't see the values. So if you want to put, we have 5 values in the school, and there's a poster that says what the values are. But if you walk to our school, I would expect you to see children who are being respectful, who open the door for you, or children who are being kind to one another. And you'd also see adults who are engaging in conversation with each other respectfully. So what I'm saying is you can't just say, these are our values, you have to live them as well. You have to change the adult.
Thank you.
Their kids site, are they able to understand the values you are saying? Any other innovative ways you are following? Means when we start teaching
Yeah.
at the tender age, how we can able to make them understand what the values are.
Well, as Ron said, I think most people and young people would want to be treated kindly. So if you start their first experience of them coming to school and you're kind to them, they will start learning the value of kindness. Isn't it? I think Ron has said that it's an inbuilt human need to be treated with kindness or love. So if you do that as a starting point with your children, they will start realizing that they're valuable and they're important. So Sid came from a school that he didn't like at all, and he thought the school would be the same. We just showed lots of love and kindness, and we then were surprised. He kept surprising us, and he keeps surprising us.
How to bridge the gap between traditional values and modern values in teaching learning process?
What do you mean by traditional and modern values? So what's the difference between traditional love and modern love? We won't go into it, but love is love, you know? So I wouldn't classify that with traditional and modern values. There are, as Sue said, there are we all have values. Even politicians have values, but we may not always agree that they have positive values. So traditional values, aren't they the ones of kindness and empathy and respect and the ones that we've been talking about these last 2 days? Modern values, maybe they're just a repackaging of traditional values. What we need to work towards is to make, in my view, to make sure that modern values of competition and weakness and being greedy, those values don't take over as the modern values. That the traditional values actually bring a balance back. Does it? Yeah, but universal values also would be contested, but for us, we were saying that love and humility capture everything that I spoke about, but that was still abstract in the minds of the teachers and the children. So we had to unpick what love and humility were, and we came up with empathy, respect, courage, trust, and gratitude. So they're values that you may agree with or may disagree, but they're not negative values. Being kind and respectful is not a negative process. It's traditional as well as modern. So I think one question that happened yesterday is that, well, the business world out there and the politicians, they want this kind of capitalist, competition. You fight against the person next to you. We're saying, well, if we can develop the values within people who will then become the leaders, they will then start changing the way the world functions. So we have the opportunity to make an effort to consider ways that young people respond to the challenges in their world, so that when they're older, they can respond with more of the values that we're talking about today. Yeah.
So good evening, sir.
Good evening.
It was a wonderful session. And one thing like golden agreements, that was really very nice. Generally, we do it in our schools, as all the international schools have been coming up. So we also start the day with the warm-up exercises, meditation, and all those things. But we don't come up with golden agreements. We just tell them as the classroom rules, school rules, something like that. Sometimes students may not like to follow it. But as you said, golden agreements, then the child also feels it is an agreement which they make it and they have to follow it. That's really wonderful. Yeah. And small doubt for me, like maybe your educational system and your curriculum is based on less stress to the education, less stress to their education, and more focus on the other activities. But as you know, Indian educational system is less on the activities and more on the education. So how can we do justice in this kind of educational system?
Well, the UK system is hugely pressured. You know, teachers and head teachers are required to keep the standards high. So the exam results are the most important thing in terms of the wider government view. But again, we're falling into the trap that people outside education think is true. It's not one or the other. It's not teaching for the exam and leaving out values. They're both together. As Ron said, the same side, two different sides of the coin. So the way I'll give you an example, that our children, I was worried this week because my 7-year-old were doing exams at school and I was here in the sunshine with you all. And they were back there doing their test. So I kept on WhatsApp, how are they doing? But what we've always said is we'll spend 80% of the time teaching children really well, teaching them to love maths, so they know maths well, they know English, they know geography. And then 20% of the time, we'll teach them how to do the test, which is a different skill. So we focus all our time on quality learning and teaching, and then a small amount of time on teaching them how to access a test. Because they have to do that, so it would be unfair if we just said we're not doing it. But the balance has to be towards quality teaching and learning. It requires us to be like King Henry VIII and be courageous together.
Thank you.
Sir, you have given us wonderful presentation. Congratulate you on that. For that, sir, I have three short questions. One is, while talking about the meditations, you said 3 types of meditations you practice in your school, while sleeping and walking and even one more sitting, right? I want to know how that while walking, how a child can meditate. This one question. Second one is, when it comes to for the food style of eating, you make all the children sit together like having a family together. But in your school, don't you have a children from different backgrounds and all? Because in Indian context, we have the children, those who eat vegetarian and non-vegetarian food. So how do they adjust with that? This is another question. And finally, nowhere you talked about after teaching learning process, when it because in after teaching learning, we should go for testing and evaluating. How do you do that? These 3 questions. Yeah.
So the second question for lunchtime is the easiest one. We provide vegetarian and non-vegetarian food. So the children in our school, some of them have gluten-free diets, some they all have no nuts. Some children don't eat fish. The Muslim children don't eat pork. It's halal when it's meat. So we provide for all their different. So the food comes to the table, and then each child has a label, and they know which bit of the food they have. That's the first one. It's the most difficult part of the day. It gives me a headache each day thinking about lunchtime. The first question, yeah. So we looked at the kind of Buddhist tradition of meditation, walking meditation, which we could practice if we wanted. So one way is that we'll maybe standing in the playground, and you'll say in your head, I'm standing, I'm breathing, I'm standing. So the child is thinking, I'm standing, I'm breathing. When you're making the first step, say, I'm stepping, and you make one step. I'm stepping. And that, from a Buddhist tradition, is a mindful... Yeah, exactly. So when you're walking, you concentrate on walking. When you're eating, you concentrate on eating. The third question was about assessment. So we have government assessments, but we also have regular assessments throughout the week. that we call them exit tickets. So they're very small, maybe one question. When a child has understood a concept, in maths, for example, they will do the exit ticket, which is a challenging question, and the teacher then can see the exit ticket which is a difficult question, and they will see if they've understood the concept or not. If they've understood it, they move on. If they haven't, the teacher will reteach it until they get the exit ticket. So we do it more regularly, but it doesn't feel so stressful because they're like little quizzes. The children think they're doing a game, but we are assessing them. That's time. We don't grade the child now. I'll just tell you, Dylan William, who is a professor of assessment in the UK, he said, if you write well done, or I really enjoyed the story that you wrote, and give some feedback. So you actually say, I think you should use more expressive language, or make your character more exciting. Without a grade, the children's progress was great. If you put just a grade, the children's progress wasn't great. If you put the comment and a grade, the children's progress wasn't great. Because children fixate on the grade, the number. So they would say, I'm 90% or I'm 80%. So we don't want anyone saying, I am 90%, because you're bigger than 90%. You're more whole than 90%. So we focus on what's the next thing they have to do to improve their learning, the next thing for the next day. And then you make small steps, and eventually you've walked a marathon. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Ma'am, if you can hold on. We're out of time.
Okay.
Perhaps the next speaker. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. James, for having this talk with us, and we would like to offer a token of our gratitude to you as well. May I please invite Shri Anantmurthy Sir, Chairman of the Shri Sathya Sai Lok Seva High School, to present our token of gratitude to you. Thank you, Dr. James. As the next speaker, we have Venerable Geshe Lakhtor, who is the Director, Library of Tibetan Works and Archives in Dharamshala, India. A distinguished Buddhist scholar, Venerable Geshe Lakhtor has served His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama as his translator and religious assistant since 1989, and has also co-translated and co-produced several books by the Dalai Lama. Geshe is a trustee of the Foundation for Universal Responsibility, established by His Holiness. He's also the director of the Central Archive of His Holiness and a member of the Advisory Board of the Institute of Tibetan Classics in Montreal, Canada. He's currently serving as the director of the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives in Dharamshala, India, and as the head of the Science Education Project. Geshe facilitates the Science for Monks program and shares his own experience as a scholar of science and philosophy. He's also actively involved in the new education program initiated by His Holiness the Dalai Lama for primary, secondary, and higher education through the Center for Contemplative Science and Compassion-Based Ethics. May I now please invite Venerable Geshe Lakhtor to address us all.
So you have been sitting long time. I want you to get up. And you can sit down when you feel like sitting down. Otherwise, you can stand up for some time, no problem. Okay, the first thing I want to say is good evening. You know, the education starts through these ordinary exchanges. Nobody says bad morning, bad afternoon, bad evening. Everybody says good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's not enough to say good evening, good morning, but we have to be good. This is a good reminder for students as well as teachers. Now I have a question to ask you, because this is the last session. You've been like sitting the whole day, so I will try to make some things a little bit easier and hopefully a little bit shorter talk, okay? I ask you a question. You want happiness? Think carefully. Are you sure you want happiness? For how many days? I know you are a bunch of greedy people. So this is the reason we need value, we need ethics. Because we want not only happiness, but long-lasting happiness. And you said it. I'm not putting my word in your mouth. You said it. Remember this for the rest of your life. You said you want not only happiness, but long-lasting happiness. You said it. I actually want to collect your signature. Okay? The next important thing is, if you want that long-lasting happiness, from where do you think you will get that long-lasting happiness? From money? From friends and relatives? I have asked this question to so many places, to so many countries, but when you sit down and think, then people say, yes, that long-lasting happiness has to come from within. See? This is not what we think in our daily life. We forget that. So I want you to remember this, that at the end of the day, that happiness, that security, that fearlessness has to come from within oneself. Nobody will give it to you. Just remember that. This is very crucial. It's not saying your friends and relatives are bad, but there's a limit that they can do. Many of them are, of course, unfortunately bad. They only go after money, okay? We see this on a daily basis in the newspaper. But even in the case of good family members, they can help you to some extent. They cannot change your way of thinking. They cannot find out what is going on in your mind. There is nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven. Gods cannot do that. Buddha cannot do that. Believe me. There's nobody who will catch hold of your leg and throw you into hell. Even the worst of enemy cannot do that. This is the reality. Therefore, the Buddha said, self is the protector of the self, no one else can be the protector. Similarly, self is the enemy of the self, no one else can be the enemy. So we want values, or we want ethics, or we want proper education. Education also, we did discuss a lot about education, but education at the end of the day, everybody is more or less agreeing, education is not equal to literacy, reading, writing, mathematics. That is what is seen as education today, but that is not education, that is not education, it's just literacy. Education means personality development. Education means human flourishment. Human flourishment means that the person should be able to become self-reliant physically, intellectually, and mentally. Physically self-reliant means the person is able to earn things for himself so that the person does not become dependent on others for the rest of their life. Intellectually self-reliant, intellectually independent means that we should instill in the mind of the students as well as in ourselves the capacity to caution, the capacity to caution and find things by oneself, not just being dependent to others. This is very, very crucial because today, the more we study, the more we get information, but more there are others who are coming up with a new curriculum to make your mind completely weighed down. You don't have to learn everything that's there in the world. If you are thirsty, do you need to drink water? Say it, answer. But is it necessary for you to drink the whole ocean? Exactly, that's what I'm saying. You should drink enough water to quench your thirst. No need to drink the whole ocean. Today we live in a world which is called age of information. But believe me, much of the information, the so-called information, is junk information. Okay? As educators, it's important for us to know that my mind is not a garbage bin to put all this junk information. Look at how much we are lost with the mobile phone and other shiny gadgets. Almost like whole day we are just like a baby, we are carrying the gadget, you see. You need to realize these gadgets, however shiny they are, these gadgets, including internets and so forth, they are for connecting with other people. They are not for connecting with yourself. Do you send an email to yourself? Do you call yourself? So nothing has been produced to keep in touch with yourself. In the time of Aristotle, Socrates, there is a statement which says, if in the town there is a famous singer, man or woman, famous singer, then the big population of the town will go to that singing. Everybody will praise the singer, saying, what a wonderful voice. But hardly anybody will say that I also would like to become like that. In fact, the whole population will not say we all should become a singer. But when it comes to ethics, people used to believe, ethics, this is something we all need to do, no need to be taught. We are born wanting ethics. We are born wanting to be good. We are born like that. So it's very surprising today we need to teach ethics. Very surprising. What is the first thing that the child does after the birth? Crying or smiling? Crying. American child, Tibetan child, Chinese child, no difference. Crying. Today we sing saying happy birthday. It was only Buddha who said suffering birthday. I'm not saying you don't celebrate your birthday, you must celebrate, but understand. Don't close your eye how we are born. We are born crying. We came into this world crying. By crying, what do you think the child is asking? Do you think the child is asking for a lengthy discourse on Buddhism? Huh? What do you think? What do you think the child is asking? The child is asking for loving kindness, for love. Remember this. These are the values, these are ethics the child is asking. In fact, universal ethics, not ethics based on any particular religion. The child is asking for somebody's love. Their love also, unconditional love, because at that time, the child has nothing to give back. Unconditional love. As we grow up, we forget this unconditional love. We talk about love, but that love becomes business love. Business love. I love you so long as you love me. That's called business love. What the child was asking was unconditional love. The mother or whoever is the caretaker gives that unconditional love by which the child is able to grow. Not only grow, but grow healthily. So it is in our genes. The need for values, the need for ethics is our long-lasting happiness. Nothing else, nothing to do with religion. Of course, we can use some good messages from religion and everything, but it is important to realize. Now, for example, look at your own body. You know, people came up with wonderful presentations. But I want to ask you to study yourself. We are very good in today studying about the galaxies, the stars, things like that. But about human being, we hardly know anything. Human emotions, we have just started talking about human emotions. Let us scratch the surface, think a little bit. Whether you want the positive things or negative things, you just look at your physical structure. We have these two long arms. These two long arms, it is made in such a way that it is good for hugging. Nature or whatever has made it like that. It's good for hugging, good for shaking hand, not for hitting. If it is for hitting, these fingers are useless. We should have got a ball, a fist. Then look at your eyes. We have two eyes, right? And ears, how many? And mouth, how many? We end up talking, but the nature says, talk less, only one mouth. Right? So that makes me speak less. Okay, don't worry. So talk less, see the reality more. Hindi में हम लोग बोलता है ना, आंखों देखा हाल. Don't just listen to the gossip, rumors spread by other people. Trust what you have seen, not just what other. If you have not seen something, don't talk about that. If you have not heard something, don't talk about that. It's spreading rumors, divisions among the society. Even Aristotle made that mistake. Aristotle said, women have more teeth than men. I don't think so. The number of teeth same, right? But Aristotle, because he heard from somebody, and without checking the fact, he said, women have less teeth than men. So if you just run after rumor, you can make mistakes. So see the fact. And with the two eyes, why both eyes in front? Not one backward, not one backside. Why? Why? There are a lot of reasons if you study carefully, because it is saying you cannot go into two different directions at the same time. So you will primarily be moving forward. Look at your leg, both the toes are in the same side. You will be moving forward. So in front, where you are going, look carefully. Carefully, whether the road is clean or not, whether there are thorns or not, snakes or not, look carefully. And then eyes, the ears, spread a little bit two directions. Also watch the sound. If there is any threat or any other things, also open your ears and listen to all the directions. Then the nose, it's not like pig. It is down. So it's primarily saying, watch the smell that you have in your body. It's none of your business to watch the smell of others. Make sure you are clean. Then the poor tongue has no other job. It's inside. Only when the food comes in, then he has the job. Otherwise, he has no job. So what I'm really trying to say is with these two hands and the two legs, which is meant for moving. Two legs are not so much for sitting, primarily for moving. So move, exercise, become fit, and extend your two hands, help others. So if you just study the structure of the human body, and then look at the teeth. Just now in that video, you saw this two football players, one biting the other. Even with that biting, he will not be able to do much damage because our teeth are not made for, cutting others. Our nails are also not for doing harm to others. So now we have been talking about human values. The most important human value for me lies in this brain. You call it brain, you call it mind, the capacity to judge what is right or what is wrong. That's the most important thing. Now this human mind, in terms of human brain, human beings have the biggest brain of all animals. I'm saying this in terms of the physical size. Of course, there are other animals which have bigger physical size, therefore bigger brain. But in relation to the physical size, human beings have the biggest brain, therefore the biggest mind. Now this mind, or this brain, is just a potential. In Buddhism, we call our life precious human life. Precious because we have this great human potential. But this potential itself is like a nuclear energy. It is neither good nor bad. It depends how you use it. If you use it properly, you can benefit millions, like Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa or the Dalai Lama. Their long list there. If you use this same brain, same mind negatively, you can become Mao Zedong, you can become Hitler, you can become Idi Amin, long list again, Hitler and so forth. So therefore, when we talk about value, when we talk about education, we are talking about understanding the potential of your mind and ensuring that it cultivates the positive emotions, it cultivates the positive values and not the negative values. We discuss a lot about how challenging these curriculums are, what are the hurdles, things like that. I am tempted to say that not only in education programs, but in our daily life, whether you will have that long-lasting happiness or not, whether you will have success or not, is dependent upon the state of your mind, whether your mind is free from negative emotions or not. So the greatest hurdle, the greatest challenge in education, in success, in happy life, the greatest enemy is negative emotions. Not many people spoke about that. In Buddhism, we focus on that, negative emotions, destructive emotions. For example, what are the destructive emotions? Exactly. We are fond of doing meditation, yoga, things are wonderful, it's good, it's giving some benefit, I know. But the main problem is we don't know about our psychology, we don't know about our emotions. Just understand how destructive anger is. Just see how destructive attachment is, desire is, negative computation is, jealousy is. If you reduce these negative emotions, there is 100% guarantee that you will be happier. And thereby you can make your family happier, your society happier, your children happier. If you don't do this, if you don't catch the enemy, you talk about this, that, many interesting illustrations and many beautiful talks, things like that, but it will not make drastic change. So reducing anger has to be done by you, not by Buddha. And how can you reduce anger? You can reduce anger only if you realize how destructive anger is. Do a research on that. Anger, attachment, desire, how destructive they are. For example, anger, I'll give you a few examples. There is nobody who right in the morning will make a plan saying that today I will get angry. Is there anybody who makes such a plan? Because we have some idea anger is not good, right? But in the course of the day, you get angry when you meet strange people, not so good co-workers, you get angry. But then having got angry, at the end of the day, when you reflect back that you got angry and you fought with somebody, is there anybody who would say that today I was mad, today I was angry, so I really enjoyed the day? As simple as that. We are not thinking about these things. Anger destroys your peace. Anger makes you mad. Anybody wants to become mad? I'm not coining it. Normally when somebody is angry, we say, oh, he is mad. Pagal banna chahta hai koi? Get angry. Anger destroys your friendship. Anger destroys your sleep. Anger destroys your beauty. If you are a young lady or young man who wants to be a presentable person, we use all those heavy cosmetics and gold earrings and things like that. After all this decoration, you get angry. Are you handsome now? If you want to become handsome, beautiful, it's not the external cosmetics. It's calmness within yourself. When you have that calm mind, compassionate mind, a loving mind, smile comes on your face. When you have that sense of humility, sense of appreciation, sense of responsibility, sense of kindness, the energy in your body flows properly. When the energy flows properly, the blood flows properly. When the blood flows properly, it also flows in your face. That makes your face become radiant and lustrous. I'm not just saying it. Buddha said it. Buddha said it, you see. So today, if we want to really improve the society as a whole, we need to deal with this anger, negative emotions, jealousy, hatred. And all these countless negative emotions primarily come from ignorance. Ignorance is not just lack of knowledge, but misconception of reality. This may be a little bit difficult for you, but I want to really, want you to know this. Ignorance. When I talk about all the negative emotions coming from ignorance, ignorance is not just lack of knowledge. If it is just lack of knowledge, like children's lack of knowledge, it's easy to rectify. But here, when I talk about ignorance, it is not just lack of knowledge, but it is misconception of reality. All these countless negative emotions arise from this misconception of reality. And what is reality? Reality is that everything is heavily interconnected, interdependent. Heavily interconnected, interdependent. But with this misconception, we don't see it that way. We see things exist independently. When you fancy something, you like something, you not only see that as good, but you tend to see it, wow, 100% good, so beautiful, wow, mesmerizing. You're not convinced, right? I tell you a story to convince you. There was a father, young man who was dying to have a vehicle. And then finally he managed to, of course, in order to get such a car, you need to work like a donkey, right? That's what the whole world is today doing, running. Everybody's running. Everybody's saying, I'm busy for what? As if just being busy is important. No, it's not important to be busy. What is important is what are you busy about? किस चीज में व्यस्त हैं? On the one hand, we have science, technology, and we call science, technology as facilities. इतना facility आपको मिल रहा है, फिर आप इसकी क्यों दौड़ रहा है इतना? If these are facilities, then we should have enough time to relax, spend time with our family and so forth. We are running, everybody's running, trying to catch the speed of this technology. And from there, then all the modern diseases, low self-esteem, depression, loneliness. Imagine somebody suffering from loneliness in a population with 10 million. 10 million people, there's fellows suffering from loneliness. So what I'm really trying to say is telling this story. So this father worked very hard, as we normally do. We want to buy big thing, then we don't have money, then we just touch our pocket, do window shopping, and then collect more and money, save money, save money, save money, not knowing when one is going to die, save money, save money. And then finally, when you have bought this car, that is called, I call it honeymoon. Marriage mein hota hai na, marriage mein. During the honeymoon, you're over the board, After a few days, then you don't even like to talk to each other. I know all the stories, right? Fooling oneself. Okay? So this father bought this expensive car, and during the honeymoon period, he was so attached to that car, he really thought this car is existing independently from its own side. That's called ignorance, avidya, ignorance. And because of this, during the first few days, the honeymoon period, he will make sure that the car doesn't collect dust. He will cover it and, take rounds to see whether nothing has been scratched and things like that. So father was doing that. He had this little baby, small girl. And this small girl just goes there and, as innocent as she is, she scribbles something on the car. And the father, because he was enjoying that honeymoon with the car, said, "What are you writing?" He pushed the little girl aside, and the little girl died. This is a story, but very moving story. The little girl died. And after the little girl died, there's nothing the father can do. He was shocked, and the only thing he can do is go back to the car and see what the little one has written. And she has written, "Papa, I love you." This is the message I'm trying to deliver. You can do such huge damage with ignorance, with misconception. Not realizing that everything is changing, everything is in a flux, everything is interdependent. We say, "I love my relatives, friends." If you love your friends, relatives, love now. Tomorrow they are here or not, nobody knows. That's why education is important. Proper education is important. The year before, I was giving a public talk in Russia, Moscow. I was speaking something like this, and there was a young fellow sitting in front. He said, "Geshe-la, if nothing has this independent existence, then how can I love my girlfriend?" This is how we think. The person that you love should be existing independently, permanently. Then I said, "You are stupid. If your girlfriend lives independently, permanently, then there's so much time, no hurry, love later." But that's not the case. She's fragile, she's impermanent. Now is the time to live harmoniously. Now is the time to show compassion. Now is the time to love. So you need to develop these realistic perspectives. If you look at the world today, the so-called great leaders of the world, they spend such a huge amount of money stockpiling arms for killing people, fragile people. And Buddhist teaching says you don't have to kill people, they will die. Look at the wisdom. We are very fragile. We are not sure how long we are going to live. Still people are stockpiling arms to kill people. Not only 2-3 people, but the whole world, now they have stockpiled so much arm that the whole population of the world can be killed few times over. Can you imagine that? Because of misconception, because of ignorance. So therefore, ignorance, not understanding the reality, that is what I'm saying. Understand the reality. Things are impermanent, things are changing. And then another source of many of the negative emotions is only thinking about oneself, not about others. I, me, mine. I, me, mine. It is scientifically proved today that people who make a lot of self-references, I, me, and mine, are more prone to diseases, including heart attack. Scientifically proved. Why? Because when you say I, me, and mine, your focus is very narrow. I, me, and mine. And within that small focus, even if small problems happen, you tend to see it as if it is unsurmountable. But when you suffer, yes, you can also get sick. But then on those occasions when you get sick, don't just get bogged down thinking about yourself, how unfortunate you are, how the merciless God is. You continue to think about all the negative things. Don't do that. Yes, I'm sick, but I'm in a free country. I'm lucky. I have medical facilities around. I have friends supporting me. There are other people in the world who have no supporters, who have no friends. At the same time, when I was giving this public talk in Russia, that you should appreciate good things that you have, there was an elderly Russian lady sitting in front. She said, Geshe-la, I'm an elderly Russian lady, poor Russian lady. I live alone. I have nobody supporting me. So how can I be happy? She asked me this question. I told her, you can be happy because I see you have 2 eyes intact, 2 legs intact, 2 hands intact. What else you want? Compare it with those people who have lost both the legs, both the hands, both the eyes. Don't just think about yourself alone. I, me, and mine. This thinking, I, me, and mine, getting obsessed with I, me, and mine, is source of all the illnesses that you see in the world today. So as I promised, I will try. I have a lot of things to say because all I do is talking, okay? But I don't want to make you tired. But I want a few things to remember. Few things. The source of all problems, be it in education, be it in any other activities, the source of all problem is ignorance, not knowing the reality. So try to know the reality, maintain a larger perspective. And then don't get bogged down, I, me, mine all the time. Okay? Because this so-called I is just designation. Just designation. If you search it, you won't find it. I'm not saying it is not there, it is there conventionally, but it's not something that you can lay your hands upon it. What we can see is the body and the mind. Take good care of your mind. Take good care of your body. And here, although this is not the topic, I really tempted to say one thing. We talk so much about value, talk so much about education, but you can preserve these values. You can come up with a good system of education only if you are a healthy person. So check your health. Don't just beat about the bush. Check your health, whether you're suffering from obesity or not. What is your blood pressure? Any illness, problems you have, try to get rid of that. And when you are happy, healthy, then you can talk about all these good things. Otherwise, we are just talking. हम लोग बोलते हैं ना हिंदी में हवा में बात कर रहा है. Get your feet on the ground. Okay, so I just say one more point about Buddhist process of education. Buddhist process of education is threefold. Listening, thinking, and meditation. Okay? Listening, thinking, meditation. Listening means, for example, I will illustrate this point. If you are thirsty and looking for water and have no idea where water is available, then is it important to listen? It's very important to listen. Ask somebody where is water available. Then that person says water is available 2 kilometers from here. That's good, right? But is that enough? Will anybody say that, okay, thank you, my thirst is gone? Nobody will say like that. Right? Listening important, but not enough. I'm trying to prove that. So what you need to do now is walk 2 kilometers. So like walking 2 kilometers, having listened to somebody, then you use your apna khobri, dimag. Use your own mind, think how far this teaching, even of the Buddha or Sai Baba, whoever, your devotion is important, but you also have the capacity to analyze how far this is true. Analyze, think. It's like walking 2 kilometers. When you walk 2 kilometers, you reach near the water, it's a big progress. You are able to see water. So thinking will take you to that distance, very close to the reality. But is that enough? If you see the water and then say, thank you, I saw the water, my thirst is gone, no. Now the third thing is you need to actually drink the water. Then your thirst will go. Drink the water. So meditation is actually drinking the water, meaning that we talk about all these values. So meditation means make sure that you have these values. Make sure you have these values. When you talk about compassion, make sure you have this compassion. Otherwise, it will not change your life. I'm not saying it is easy, but that's the goal, that's the direction we need to do that. So that's the threefold process of study for the students that you need to encourage. Then with the actual content of the education, it has to be again threefold. The first is morality. The most important thing in education is morality. Second most important thing is concentration. Third most important thing is wisdom. Okay, so I'll give just one example of each and then I stop. First, morality is important. I'll prove this point. Morality is like the ground. This beautiful hall is constructed on the ground. You are standing on the ground. If the ground is not there, neither you can stand, nor this building can be constructed. So all other virtuous qualities like compassion, love, nothing can happen if you don't have moral ground. Morality is like the ground. So morality basically means refraining from negative deeds, number one. Number two, doing all the things that is good. Number three, helping others. Very precise and very clear in the Buddhist teachings. Very precise. Morality is not observing a discipline imposed upon you by someone else. It means not doing the bad thing, doing the good thing, helping others. That's morality. All these three are morality. Then concentration. Concentration in general is very important, especially in cultivating positive qualities. Concentration is very important. Concentration is the source of success both in war and in peace. Whether in war or in peace, concentration is the source of success. Concentration is like a laser beam. I'll give you the example of a laser beam. If the rays of the light of the laser beam are scattered, the laser beam has no capacity to cut through steel. But when the rays of the light of the laser beam are concentrated, it can cut through steel. If you concentrate, if you go into the depth of education, you can easily get that knowledge. So you need to teach this art of knowing the depth of anything that you are teaching. Today, people have no depth. If you ask somebody, is the meaning? I think so. Think so will not work. I know this is it. You have to teach that. This is it. In ancient Indian tradition, it says that when you get that depth, then you go to the four quarters of the world and say, I'm fearless. I know what I've studied. I know what I'm talking about. आजकल वो नहीं है. Because the problem is 33, you get 33 or something percent pass. करता है कि नहीं? What is the percentage for passing? 33, 35. Okay, 35, even 40, doesn't matter. So it's really like saying, if you hire a cook and ask him to make 100 chapatis, out of which he is able to make only 40 chapatis nice, 60 spoiled, still you will employ that cook? Huh? So what we are doing is like that, 35 means the rest, nothing. Still you say pass and you give employment. So what we'll get? So because there is no certainty. So the teacher's job is not just talking and shouting. The teacher's job is to make sure that the teacher himself knows what he's teaching. And the child is able to precisely know what he's teaching. And we always come up this comparison of, a teacher like a burning candle. Only a burning candle can burn another candle. Right? So therefore, morality, concentration. And third is wisdom. Wisdom means analyzing, cautioning, introspection, not just receiving. Today, the education system is such, people are just like photocopy machines. They produce only duplicates, right? Copies, only copies. Originality kuch bhi nahi, because you don't think. So therefore, I'll give you one example. Wisdom, importance of wisdom. There was, in ancient India, there was a teacher who, having taught his students by the side of the river, then he tells one of his students, take this book and put it on the table in my living room. So the boy takes the book and goes, and then comes back scared by saying, sir, I cannot go there because there is a snake lying there. Then the teacher says, okay, no problem, I give you a special mantra. Om Namo Shiva. And then he goes on, chanting that Om Namo Shiva, goes there, and he comes back saying the mantra didn't work, still the snake is lying there. Then the teacher give him a lamp. Take this. And we took the lamp and goes there. There was no snake. It is a coil of rope. It's a coil of rope because the place was not so, lighted. So therefore that coil of rope really looked like a snake. And he got the real fear as if there is a snake. That's what I'm talking about, misconception. With the misconception of reality, you can get all those troubles and fears, like seeing a coil of rope as a snake. So therefore, it is only with the light of wisdom that you can really shine out and know the depth of whatever you want to know. So having made a big promise, I think I'm again running out of time. So I'll stop here. I'll just stop here. At the end, all I want to say is life is short. And in the case of each of us, our individual life, we should see how many years you already spent. And think about the remaining of your life, what you are going to do with it. This human life, in Buddhism we call it precious human life. We have such a great potential to do things. And it is such a waste, such a shame if we use this little span of human life for destructive activities. And I must not forget to compliment this organization, which is Saiji's vision. That I don't know much about your organization. I also don't know much about Saiji, things like that, but I don't need to know. Because as we meet other human beings, normally I say I don't need much introduction because I know she is a human being, I'm a human being, that's it. She has the same feeling like me, wanting happiness, not wanting. But through this is my second visit. What I highly, highly admire is your institutions and people who are working are not just talking, you are doing. You are doing. You are doing. The great services that you have done to nurture these children with love and affection, it's not just 100 students, it's several thousands of students. And the flourishment that you are experiencing, from the depth of my heart, I really admire everybody's dedication, and I wish that you continue to prosper. Thank you very much.
We have time for a couple of questions. Anybody has any question? Anybody has not asked so far? Yes, ma'am. Can you speak up if you don't mind?
Thank you so much for giving us so beautiful advice. I really admire your lessons given in very short time. Thank you very much. And my question to you is, like we have been discussing about the value education, many thousands of books are written on value education. Many experts have come here to express their thoughts about the value education. But my question to you is, if the teacher's life is not based on the values, human values, will it be able to achieve the goal of value education that we are trying to impart to the society in all the countries? If the teacher's life is not value-based, will he or she will be able to impart the valuable education? That is my question to you, sir.
Okay, we live in ordinary world, so we have to be practical. To teach children value, the teacher should have value. But this does not mean to say that you cannot teach value if the teacher doesn't have value. We have to be really practical. Otherwise, you won't find any teacher having perfect value. Okay? So the thing that we need to have is either you should have all the values that is perfect, maybe you're already enlightened, or at least you have this sincere motivation to help the student not to harm others. If you have that, I think everything will go in the right direction. In the Buddhist teaching, there is a teaching which says, if you have one practice, you have all the practices. And what is that one practice? Compassion. Because compassion means to think, how nice if I'm able to remove the sufferings of other sentient beings. If you have that feeling, how nice if I'm able to remove the sufferings of other sentient beings, all the good things will come automatically. All the bad things will stop. So we should be good and sincere in one thing, like compassion. It's like a panacea which solves many problems. Okay?
Sir, nowadays we have people, some students are not believing the God and all those religion. So when we are trying to teach based on the religion, they are not able to take the values. Sir. Exactly. For example, I say that Buddha, you learn dharma from Buddha. They are saying that you are religious, a kind of thing, and they are not believing us. Exactly. So any ways?
Yeah, sure. I'm really glad you raised this question, because just in this year, in April, His Holiness the Dalai Lama did this international launching of teaching secular ethics in all the schools, universities all over the world, because he's very concerned about the deteriorating situations of ethics and values. Okay, so I'm glad you raised this question. But because of shortage of time, I did not go into that direction. So whether you believe a particular religion or not is your choice. We need to know this. Nobody can force anybody to follow religion. It's your choice. Now, even if you don't follow religion, you have to have ethics. Ethics is like water. Religions are like tea, coffee. If you like tea, okay. If you like coffee, okay. If you don't, okay. But without water, we can't exist. Right? And then also there are many, not only who don't believe in religion, but who are anti-religion. So we are now talking about secular ethics, or if you want to avoid the controversy, then we don't use this word secular ethics. Instead, we use social, emotional, ethical learning. Social, emotional, ethical learning. Just for this life. This life is not dream. You are already here. You want to be happy. So that happiness will come based on the practice of universal values, ethics, which has nothing to do with religion. So the ethics, that universal ethics, secular ethics that we are talking about, is ethics that is not coming from top down, but from bottom up. Bottom up means based on our own experiences. That I see somebody, I smile, it's good for you, good for me. This is based on common sense, common experience, scientific findings, evidence-based. Nothing to do with God or any other Buddha or anything. Okay? Common sense.
Good evening, Guruji. Thank you for a wonderful session. You said that ignorance is the source of all the problems. Like we all are talking about value-based education, and this hall is full of leaders. We don't only deal with kids, but we even deal with parents. There are so many parents who don't connect to these values. They are just focused on marks. At times, we feel like giving up on them, and we feel like, okay, chalo, jane do ine. They can never connect to this, and they don't understand. This puts us down. We are putting a lot of efforts to cultivate something in their kids and they are not appreciating. So how to deal with such people? Can you please help me with this?
That is why we have to work hard. If everything is okay, why work hard? Right? That's why important to work hard. But work hard is not equal to, in Buddhism we have a term called perseverance or effort. In that connection, effort is not just working hard like manual labor, but doing something with great joy, great delight. Okay? So with great joy, great delight that I got this wonderful opportunity to bring difference in the life of few young people. With that happiness, if you do it, you will never get tired. You will be happy. I'll give you one example. This is very important. Today, in many developed countries, including America, in hospitals, nurses, doctors, and many other professionals, many of them suffer from emotional fatigue, or compassion fatigue, or empathy fatigue. Okay? They are professionally very highly trained. But after sick people for a while, they suffer from emotional fatigue or compassion fatigue. Why? Because there's no genuine compassion, no genuine love. Compare this with the mothers. I've seen the mothers for 10 months bringing the child in the womb. Then after that, for another 5-6 years, day and night, the mother has to run after their child. Have you seen mothers suffering from compassion fatigue? Maybe in the West they say there are some, but generally not, because there is love. Love minimizes fault. There is love. When you have love, there is joy, there is happiness. You know, you look at the mother, they always talk about the greatness of their children. The child started walking, the child started speaking, the child started doing this, doing that. There's so much joy and appreciation. So you need to see this opportunity as a golden opportunity to change the life of other people. What else you need? That is your religious practice. That's your human values. That's the meaning of human life. Religious practice is not done in a temple. आजकल करता है ना, सवेरे टेम्पल जा करके थोड़ा फूल दे करके घंटी बजा के दिन को फिर corruption, exploitation, वो नहीं चलता है. There's no religion. There's no religion. Real religion means helping people who are in need, helping suffering sentient beings. That's religious practice.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you so much, Venerable Keshilakarshi. We don't have time for any more questions now, but as you saw the response, everybody had a wonderful time and they could really connect with you and be with you as you actually removed their ignorance for them, as you said in your talk. We would like to thank you with a token of our gratitude and appreciation. May I now invite Commander Jairam, who is the Director for Leadership Training and Development at Sri Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence, to please offer our token of gratitude. Thank you so much. We have a similar session coming up, but worry not. We have a short tea break now. There is another excellent such session that's coming up at 6:30. It's a panel discussion, and there are speakers from various backgrounds, academicians, educators, administrators, all giving their points of view on the value education space. So we'll have a tea break now. Kindly assemble back in the auditorium by 6:20, please. Thank you so much. Tea is being served right outside the auditorium. Thank you.